Oh, hello. I'm so glad you could join me. Welcome. My name is Albejorn, and I would like to be your hostess in introducing yourself to this grand world of VRChat. It's a really fascinating place. It's comprised of hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands most likely, of different worlds to explore. And you can find something just about for anyone, everywhere. Everything from, come with me a bit, we'll head upstairs. So anything from nature spots with forests to this one in particular is a cyberpunk themed world. We've got our floating cars, of course, and we have our space theme backdrop back there, and occasionally there's a blimp. Oh, there it is right now, showing up right over my left shoulder. Anyways, fantasy, there's people have created different types of video games. There's murder mystery games, there's all sorts of stuff to explore and to participate in. But one of the things I thought I would do is provide some insight into the more mundane aspects of VRChat. So tips and tricks that I thought would be helpful if I had known them from the very beginning. So let's go ahead and head upstairs. So I'm going to sprint upstairs. Here we go. Please follow me. And one of the things you'll find in just about every setting are different buttons that you can interact with. Now, this particular button modifies the post effects in this world. So if I click it and cycle through, oh gosh, this one is rather bright. Let's see, and this one is rather dark. So I had it. Wow, this one is very, very avant-garde. I think I had it on this one. Or was it the next one? It was the next one. This one has just a little bit of extra bloom. So, anyways, if you are... Oh, that's handy. Local lighting, just to light up the avatars so you can see them regardless of the lighting environment you find yourself in. So, if you're in full body, like I am, so that's something to cover. So what we have is traditional desktop users. They have one main input, right? So they've got the keyboard mouse, and the mouse controls where the head is looking, and they can crouch down low, and they can sit, and that's kind of about it. 3-point tracking is head and 2 hands. And so you'll kind of notice that when people have 3-point tracking, as they turn their head, their body will gradually rotate to be with them. There is 5-point tracking, which is both feet are individually tracked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I guess this is 6-point. You have 5 trackers, and then the head always counts as 1. So 6-point tracking. You have the 2 hands. You have a waist tracker, and that allows you to determine, are you kind of bending your knees while you're keeping your back up straight, or are you bending forward? And then you have 2 separate feet trackers. So if you have full body, it can be handy to turn off chairs, and honestly, for desktop users too, turning off chairs will keep you from accidentally clicking on a chair halfway across the room and teleporting to it. On the flip side, especially for desktop or 3-point tracking people, having a chair allows you to more seamlessly integrate with the world. So there you go. Moving on in, the ability to set up Videos, many worlds have the ability to plug in a YouTube URL. Sometimes that's controlled by the world leader. And then moving on over here, one of the most important things in VRChat is the mirror. So, turning that on, well, let me actually rotate the camera around. So, turning on the mirror allows you to be able to see yourself naturally in said mirror. And the reason why mirrors are so appealing to people in VRChat is it allows them to interact with each other without having to have the individual in their direct field of view. So, whoops, I just turned it off. So you'll find that there are some people, I'm one of them, that has phantom touch, where when we see our arm held by another in VRChat, we can actually feel it in real life, which is, there's a lot of fascinating psychological research about that. But regardless, I keep turning it off. I think I'll just leave it off. So, you will notice that the frame rate can degrade. Your performance can get worse when the mirror is up. And I have found that having the camera out, if you're not on desktop, if you're in VR, having the camera out can be a relatively cheap means to have kind of a portable mirror. And speaking of which, I will talk about the buttons on the camera because there's a few pro tips there. Anyways, people like to stand in front of the mirrors because it allows them to like put their arm around another person, whether they have phantom touch or not, but put their arm around another person and interact with them in a more complete fashion by seeing it in a third perspective through the mirror. So that's why mirrors are so popular. If you see a whole slew of individuals lined up against the wall or just standing in the middle of nature, odds are there's a button that will turn on the mirror. And sometimes world creators will hide that button in something innocuous. So if it's a nature setting, there'll be like a tree stump or a bush or a rock nearby that highlights and turns into a button. So there you go. Now, speaking of the camera and the buttons on the camera, let's go ahead and switch to first-person view so you can see what I see. Looking at the camera from my perspective, the buttons here are all doing something, obviously. So one of the most important ones is this yellow one. And what this does is, if I grab it, it starts out in this mode here. And this is your movement space mode. So if I move around, you'll see that the camera's following me. And this is the standard mode. This is something that VR people get. Now, if I grab the camera and I click that button, you'll notice that the lens is staying there. And now I have a camera, a phone that I can look at. So I'd have to look at the lens if I wanted to look at the lens. But this allows you to get that little bubble out of the center of the camera. So you could just move the camera up a little bit, and then now you have your portable mirror. Or if you want to do like a picture from behind and you want to compose it just right, this allows you to set up the camera where you want it and then set up your shot to take a picture. Well, I moved a weird way, but that's okay. Now, finally, if I move, you'll see that it's still moving with me. The third button allows you to do group selfies, essentially. So I can move all the way back here, or long distance shots or whatever. And now I can take a photo of me or the whole group, Or I could set it up there, and then I could come back here to be with the group of people to take the group shot and be holding the camera as I do that. So let me move back here. The next button is something I see people not realizing when they're doing streaming. But if you grab this, the orange button moves from a standard camera to one that follows your eyes around, right? So it's always looking at you as you move around the room, which again can be quite helpful with the world space. If you move way back here, it's going to follow me as I move around the room. The third option is an image stabilization. So if we go back to here where it's a handheld camera, as I move the camera around, it gets rid of a lot of the jitter. And then real quick, the green button allows you to lock the interface. You can apply various special filters to the output of the camera. The green one's kind of nice because you can't accidentally grab the camera and move it around. And the timer one will take a picture. You can also just take the picture by grabbing the camera and clicking on the trigger. Now, there is one thing that I wanted to say. And now I'm drawing a complete blank. So, moving back to first-person perspective, that's enough about the camera. I do want to mention for desktop users that I believe it's F12 allows for taking a screenshot in Steam because the camera isn't always functional or is not functional at all. I'm not quite sure. I haven't done desktop in a long time, but somebody wanted me to mention that. So, moving back into the world, we need to take a look at the menu system. So, what we have, we'll do it with this hand. What we have are, naturally, our various different settings. Worlds is where you're going to find all your worlds. Avatar is where you can find new avatars. I will say that searching for avatar worlds will lead to a huge variety of avatars that are not available in the curated list of avatar worlds. So if you want to find a public model that's kind of unique, do a search for the worlds that contain the name avatar. Don't necessarily just go with the worlds that say that are in the avatar playlist. Social. Now, first up, we're going to go with safety. So, with safety, this allows you to protect yourself from people that might have avatars that are overly complicated. People have like meme avatars or what have you. So if you're going to public worlds, the being on a shield level of normal kind of makes sense. Now, if you're in more of a convention world where everybody's playing nice, let me go ahead and move the let me move the camera. Let's go over here so we've got a nice backdrop. So we'll move the camera up here. We'll get rid of that bubble so that you can see it when I go into the menu options. So if we pull up safety, so you'll have, if you're in a convention world setting, then doing something like none might make sense. If your system is really bogging down, you'll want to turn off the shaders and the light particles because those can take up a lot of performance. Up to you. You can also create custom levels that allow you to say that for a specific level of user, so like for friends typically have everything on. You might want to turn that off at a convention setting when loads of people are in the world. Now, up here is performance options. This is also really handy because you can change what level of avatar performance rating is viewed. And you can set, whoops, not sure why the menu went way down there. Let's bring it back. So, you can limit the dynamic bones. Now, dynamic bones are things that allow for interaction. So, as I move my head around, you'll see my hair flopping around and my ears jiggling. That's because there's hidden dynamic bones that have springs on them and what have you. And it's kind of a complicated calculation. So you can choose to limit this and lower the limits for your performance. Here we go. So, and every time I make a change there, it reloads all the avatars of the world. So that's why the menus are going way down there. Let's back up from the main window. There we go. So, moving on to the settings page. Here's where you have the holoport that allows you to like aim for a place that your avatar will be walking towards. You saw that in the introductory level. Comfort turning. Personal space is something that allows for, it makes it so that when people get too close to your personal viewport, they disappear. And so if you want closer interactions, you'll want to turn personal space off. If you're in public worlds, you probably will want to keep personal space on. Let's see. A lot of times people will enter a world and their mic will be off. Mic default is on is probably unchecked, which means as soon as you enter a world, you're muted. Now, it's perfectly okay to be someone that doesn't talk. In fact, there's a not small number that actually do a variety of ASL and hand signs to communicate. So that's something that's an option. If you don't really feel like conversing with people, you can just be quiet and indicate that you're not in a talking mood. So I'm going to make sure that that stays on. And in fact, I disable the mic button just because I'm a talker. So, boop, 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 boop. The other big thing that I wanted to call out is that you have your audio volumes. If the world music is too loud, you can change its volume so that it's easier to hear people around you. If people are too loud, you can lower the voices. And if there's somebody with a really annoying avatar that's playing sounds that's really loud, you can pop in here and you can lower avatar volume all the way down. Now, up here in advanced settings, clearing your downloaded content cache is a good idea as it approaches a large size. So I think 20 gigabytes is close to max in VRChat. Don't quote me on that. But if VRChat's kind of having some issues, it's a good idea to come in and clear your content cache. So that's something that is bandied about in the community, but you don't really hear much about it, and it's tucked away under advanced settings. Now, under social, we have our status. So here you can change the text to indicate to communicate to your friends why you might be in a particular status or what kind of mood you're in. So here I've said that I'm filming a talk. And I'm currently on Do Not Disturb mode. So people can't see what world I'm in, and I don't get pop-up notifications saying somebody wants to talk to me. So, at the opposite end of the spectrum is blue. Join me. I won't even see a request come in. It'll just show up. The people will just show up and join onto my world. So if you're blue, that typically means that you're open for interacting and you're feeling pretty social, and especially with random folks on your friends list. Now, if you're green, you'll see the join requests. But it gets complicated, so we're going to pop out of this in just a sec. Orange means that people won't see where you are, but you will be able to see their join requests. Now, I said it's complicated, and that's because if we go over to Worlds, and let's just pick a world. I happen to have the foxhole on my favorites list. Now, if I said I wanted to go, I would be joining someone's world that they've already created. I would be joining 77746, opened by, and it's a public instance, and there's already one person there. So, if I did go, I would be going into a public world, and that means anybody can join. If they search for the world up here, they can just pop into this one. An example is if we go back and we go look at some of these popular ones, like the Great Pug. Down here you'll see, and this took me a while to figure out, but down here you'll see the instances that are already running, and it will have picked one. Well, it overrode it. There was one that had 5. There we go. It picks one somewhat at random. So this one is number 73933, and there's 5 out of a max of 25 people there. Now, if I didn't want to go to a quiet world, if I wanted to find new people to hang out with, then I would pick one of these other ones that's close to max. So, there we go, 80998 currently has 24 out of 25 people. That number is not a hard limit. Apparently there's a soft limit in which additional people can accept invites, and so invitees can join in even when the world is full. So sometimes it can get over this hard, the soft limit that's printed. But let's say I'm just wanting a quiet world. I don't want random strangers popping in. So that's where new instance comes into play. This allows me to make a version of this world that's controlled by me. The ones you see here, these are the public ones. Friends Plus means that it's going to be pretty much equal to random after a little while. So what happens is you join in, you can send invites to anyone, they accept, and now they can get invites from anyone, and they can accept, and those people can get invites from anyone, and they can accept. And so very quickly, after like 3 or 4 iterations, you'll get a pretty interesting crowd. So that's Friends Plus, and that can be fun too. No judging. That's Friends Plus, and that's where, like, seeing the notification will show up. Like, that's kind of the difference here between the public and the friends, etc. So, friends is only your friends can join. Now, Invite Plus is interesting because you can invite others, but then the people that join can in turn accept requests. And then you've got Invite Only, where you're the only one that can send out the invites, and you're the only one that can accept the requests. So this particular world is invite only, and I'm in red status. So while I'm recording, it's completely locked down. Let's see. I've got a set of notes. Let me refer to them. I wanted to make sure that I talked about a few different things. So, over here on the hand menu, so we're going to back out of world creation, and then we're going to pull up the menu again on the hand. Here's the mute button that I thought I had disabled, but apparently I didn't. But over here on UI elements, popping back to performance, turning off nameplates, if you're in a really busy world, can shave some lag off of your screen. So that's a pro tip that I find fascinating, because it's a not insignificant amount at times. So that's one thing that I was going to bring up. The other thing was going to be a series of conversations around kind of etiquette. So I already mentioned that it's okay to be mute and not talk in a world. That's completely fine. It's okay to be loud and boisterous as well. It all depends upon the crowd that you're with. But a lot of people come to realize when they join in on VRChat, especially at a convention, that it's really replicating the convention experience in that the main hall, the main floor, starts to get kind of loud and crowded. So be aware that it's perfectly fine to feel some anxiety, and that may be something that happens because it can get really loud and there's all these conversations bombarding you. So there are quieter places typically at conventions that you can migrate off to, or feel free to take some personal time and go exploring some quiet worlds. If you've made some friends here, consider asking them if they'd like to tag along for world exploration. It's a really fun activity to just see what's here. Keep in mind that when you're joining the really big worlds that have lots of people in them, the public ones, there are people that are not very polite. They're griefers. They want to get a rise out of you, and so be aware that you'll run into these people. And it's part of the internet culture that we live in. So I typically find that, especially joining in on friends, so that you have a collective that you're already plugged into, or joining in on a smaller world, allows you to have a higher chance of meeting people that are interested in actual conversation. And then, Oh, one final thing is that sometimes you'll find that join notifications or friend requests kind of get stuck in the VR UI. So I recommend going to the VRChat.com website, because you can do those things from the website, and the odds are much less likely that the friend request that came in suddenly just disappears. Because I've had it, in fact I had it happen today, where I was trying to accept a friend request, but the accept button just wouldn't click. And when I backed out of the menu in VRChat, poof, the person was just gone. So be aware that the VRChat.com website offers some functionality. It's pretty rudimentary right now, but the game is still not complete. I think they proclaim that it's in beta. In fact, if I pull up the menu, one of the things I was going to mention was, it says early access, but it has the frame rate and your ping time right there on the menu. So if you want to try seeing if changing the nameplates improves your frame rate or whatever, or changing the dynamic bones, you can just pop over here and look at the main menu that pops up on your hand. Or for desktop users, when you hit escape, that's the same menu. Well, that just about sums up everything that I was going to say, and I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. I hope that there's been at least a few little tips and tricks that have been helpful for you, and I really appreciate the time that you've spent here with me. Thank you so much for being here at the convention. I hope you're able to reconnect with old friends, make new friends, and have a spectacular time. And if you happen to see me around, I'm always available to chat. If you want to join me and I'm blue or green, feel free to pop in. Take care and have a wonderful time exploring this crazy future that we find ourselves in.